Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Number to call, 888-589-8840. If you want to join the conversation, 888-589-8840. Glad to talk about the shutdown and talk about this standoff over healthcare. Got a lot of information I'm going to get to in the second hour about that. All of the unnecessary things that have been shut down, just how arbitrary, how mean, how vindictive, how mean-spirited, how childish, how petty all of this is. I mean, it's just remarkably perverse what this president is doing to pursue this shutdown. And we had that park ranger said, look, we were told to make life as difficult as possible. In other words, you would want, and not with this president, you would expect differently, but if you have a president who is in the role of a shepherd, remember in the Old Testament, politicians were described as shepherds. We typically use that term to refer to pastors today. But in the Old Testament, they were politicians, statesmen, political leaders, because their responsibility was to provide protection for the people from the predators. That was their job. That's what a shepherd would do, provide protection from that. So that's what a shepherd does. So you would want a president who would say, look, this is going to be difficult, but I want to assure the American people I'm going to do everything in my power to minimize the impact on you. We know it's difficult, hard for everybody. We're going to try to minimize the impact. Instead, this president is trying to maximize the impact. He is inflicting pain on the American people that he has no reason to inflict on us. He has no justification for doing it. He has no statutory authority to do it. He's inflicting this pain and this discomfort on us just because he can. So we're going to get into some of that stuff in the second hour. If you'd like to weigh in on that, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And also when it comes to this shutdown, I just want to reiterate the big picture here before we get started into some of that is, what we're seeing already with this shutdown, there's no shutdown. 83% of the government is running. It's open and it's running. 83% to 85% of the government, the federal government, is up and running. Where is the shutdown? And this is, I think, what the Democrats feared. Here, the shutdown has come. It's in place. It's being enacted, and there's no pain other than this mindless pain that President Obama is choosing to inflict on the American people. And we're coming up on the debt ceiling. These issues are now merging into one. You've got no budget because no continuing resolution was passed after September 30. So we're kind of chugging along on this kind of template that was laid down back in 1995 and 1996. And it's a good template. I mean, it's a legitimate template because Congress agreed to it in the case where, in a case like this, here's what we're going to do. President signed it, so it's fine. That's got the authority of law. So I got no beef with that, got no problem with that. But we just had these horror stories. It was going to be Armageddon. It was going to be an apocalyptic meltdown of the American economy if we go to shutdown. And I think the Democrats were afraid that exactly what has happened was going to happen. It was going to happen, and everybody was going to say, hey, what is the big deal here? That's why the president had to invent pain. I mean, this is like something out of the Spanish Inquisition where you have a guy thinking up new ways to inflict pain on innocent people. And that's what the president is doing here. I mean, putting these cones up on the road that goes by Mount Rushmore. How petty can you get? And I mean, I've seen the pictures of the roadways that go by Mount Rushmore. They have all of these little traffic cones. I mean, every 15 feet or something like that, so you can't pull off even to the side of the road to look at Mount Rushmore. Well, think of the time and the effort and the manpower and the expense that went into setting out those orange cones. They're saying, hey, we can't afford to keep these parks open. Well, how can you afford to pay these people to drop a traffic cone every 15 feet for mile after mile after mile? It costs a lot more to shut these places down than it does to keep them open. And don't forget, and we'll go to the phones after this, 888-589-8840. Even if we don't raise the debt ceiling, it does not mean the government will shut down. We've got enough money to take care of Social Security, enough money to take care of Medicare, enough money to take care of the military, and enough money to take care of servicing the national debt with the money that's coming in. So don't worry. No need to panic. The United States is not going to go into default. If Harry Reid will give these bills a vote, the House has voted 26 times since the last time the Senate has had a vote. They've sent 26 bills over to the Senate to keep the government open, to avoid the shutdown, to avoid the meltdown, all that, Harry Reid will not hold a single solitary vote. So all of this, whatever inconvenience is being experienced, it's entirely the result and the fault of Harry Reid and Barack Obama. Well, let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Patricia in Wilmington, North Carolina. Patricia, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
Yes, I was in Staples a few minutes ago. There was a young man who's retired from the Marines helping me with my broken printer, and I commented that it really upset me the way Obama treats the military. And he said, well, get this. He said, there was a man buried in my husband's buried in Arlington. But he said there was a man buried in Arlington last week who deserved to have a flyover. And he said they would not allow the planes to fly over at his funeral. And yet there was a flyover at the football game yesterday.
Well, you know, that
is terrible. That Obama is evil.
Well, that's absolutely reprehensible, Patricia, and I don't doubt what this guy said. I haven't seen that verified anywhere else, but that wouldn't surprise me at all if that had happened. Here's a veteran being laid to rest, and Arlington deserves every honor that can be bestowed on him, and yet you have a president saying, no, we can't do that, can't do the flyover because we don't have the money. Well, I'm a big 49er fan. Watched the 49er game last night right after the national anthem. They got a jet flyover. I mean, it was a big deal. They come blazing across, and it's great. I love the pageantry, the demonstration of America's military might, all of that. I love it. But if they can do it for a football game, then they can do it for a vet. And, I agree with you, Patricia. I do not think evil is too strong a word to use in describing what has happened here. All right, Patricia, listen, I appreciate your call. Let's go to Karen in Jamestown, North Dakota. And by the way, if you don't have a radio station in your city that carries our signal, you can go to afr.net, www.afr.net. We've got audio and video streaming. You can listen from your computer anywhere in the world. We also have podcasts. We have apps for your iPhone, your iPad, and your Android. And we post the video segments up on our website right after each broadcast, well, as soon as they're available. Anyway, let's go to Karen, Jamestown, North Dakota. Karen, what's on your mind?
Hi, I wanted to just tell you something about my father. My father was a World War II vet, and he was in the Navy. And when we were cleaning out a chest, this was prior to when he passed away, but there was a Bible, and there was given to him when he was in the service. This is what the government would give them, and would fit in their left-hand pocket by their chest, and it had a piece of steel on the back to help protect their heart. And those were given to the military people. And anyway, I just thought things have really changed so much. You can't even talk about the Bible, basically, in the military, much less have one in your pocket. And that's what they did back then, though. He said that they gave him one when he was in the Navy.
Wow.
And our government has just changed so much.
Yeah.
And one more thing.
And you just want one comment, Cameron, hold that thought. But just, one more comment, with that metal plate there to protect their hearts. I mean, they understood that the purpose of the New Testament is to protect your heart in more ways than one, not just physically, but also spiritually. Anyway, go ahead, Karen, complete your thought.
Oh, absolutely. And I just wanted to say, I don't know where we went wrong. I mean, I just know there's Christians out there, and I think we just need to speak up more. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Yeah, absolutely. We got to make our voices heard, and now is the time. We're getting ready to send out another action alert out on this inexcusable thing that President Obama is doing with these memorials. We've got another honor flight coming in on Wednesday from Ohio, and what's going to happen to these veterans when they go to the World War II memorial? The one memorial in D.C. that hadn't been blocked off, the LBJ Memorial. Why? Because no vets have any interest in going to the LBJ Memorial. He's the guy that got us up to our earlobes in Vietnam. No vets are going to go visit that place and put some kind of a wreath or something at the LBJ Memorial. They're going to avoid that thing like the plague. And so it's not barricaded because President Obama cannot use it to irritate and aggravate patriotic veterans. All right, let's go to Greg in Grenada, Mississippi. Greg, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the government employees, they should rebel against this devil that's in the White House. I mean, that's the only hope. You have people that you grew up with. If they don't rebel against him, that'll be putting you down.
Now, what do you mean by rebel, though, Greg?
Well, just don't do what he says do.
Well, it's interesting to me. You eventually can get up to a point, and we may not be that far away. It's part of military protocol that you have a responsibility to disobey an unlawful or unconstitutional order. If you're a member of the military, you not only have the permission, but you have a responsibility to disobey an unlawful or unconstitutional order. And we may not be that far away from an order like that being issued. In fact, maybe orders like that have already been issued, and maybe it will be time for conscientious and patriotic Americans who serve in the military. So, look, I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to obey that order. It has no legal authority. It has no constitutional authority. It's immoral. And I've taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, not to do whatever politically correct thing the current occupant of the Oval Office tells me to do. All right, Greg, thank you for that. Last call there. Let's go to Joe, Meridian, Mississippi. Joe, we're going to have to hold you. Joe, can you hang on till after the news?
No, I can't, but I appreciate it.
All right, Joe. Well, listen, why don't you hang on? I want to be sure I get what your complete thought is. So if you can hang on for the news, we'll take you coming right out of the break. You are listening to Focal Point. AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. And, you got a lot of civil disobedience going on right now. I mean, you had the entire delegation from the state of Mississippi committing an act of civil disobedience by opening those barricades for World War II veterans to go to the memorial. You had Marines went to the Iwo Jima Memorial. They just shredded the barricades, the Obama barricades put up. We're calling them barricades because they come from Barack Obama. They just threw those aside because they were going to go to the Iwo Jima Memorial. You got people throwing these traffic cones aside up in the Badlands and Mount Rushmore. Civil disobedience. Back in 2.